quorum is present.
Okay, thanks, Jed. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Gina Midico. I work for Dakota County, and I will be taking over as chair of TAC Planning with Scott's departure. Please maybe have a little patience with me this first meeting if I don't get all the order of everything correctly, but I look forward to working with you and the TPP work group for the next little while. So since we have a quorum present, the first order of business is the approval of the agenda. And I understand if nobody has any changes or suggestions, Jed, we don't need to take a vote on that. Is that correct?
Correct.
So with that, I will ask if anyone has any changes or amendments. Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved. And then we will move on to the approval of the November 9th meeting minutes. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at those. And with that, I will look for a motion to approve, and that is a roll call vote.
So moved, Howley.
Thank you, Howley. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear who that, was there a second? I think that's Dave Burns, but on my end, you sound a little bit like a chipmunk, but I don't know if anyone else got that.
Yes.
Dave, do you want to, I really can't hear you at all. Was that a second? Can you confirm? Maybe head nod. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Jed, can you please take the roll?
First, you need to call for discussion.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Like I said, that patience is appreciated here as I get used to this. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
Lindsay Brewer from MnDOT, and just a correction to the members present. It still has Michael Corbett for us, and I was at that meeting. I don't believe Michael was, but just a correction.
I do apologize for that, and I can make that correction if someone could. I believe if a more senior member of staff could answer, do we need a motion to make that amendment?
I would say that was a motion. I'll second that motion to amend the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, so then do we approve the minutes as amended? And do we need another motion, or does that just go to a vote?
Typically, you vote on the amendment and then vote on the full, but I don't know if it being minutes. Do we want to do 2 roll calls based on that?
I believe we have to. Could someone repeat to me who that second was?
Elaine Kutsukos.
And who was the main motion?
Lindsay Brewer for the correction.
Okay.
Madam Chair, a little faster way to do it is if the original motion maker takes it as a friendly amendment, then we only have to go through 1 roll call.
We follow the Robert's rules and we cannot accept friendly amendments.
Okay, stand corrected. Thanks.
Okay, so we will take 2 roll call votes, and we can't, and so we have to go through the roll twice, or is there any way to? I will defer to you, Jed. I don't want to, I'm no expert on Robert's rules here, so.
Let's just do this very quickly and call it twice.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Jed.
All right, Forsland,
Aye.
Ruiz,
Aye.
Johansson,
Aye.
Howley,
Aye.
Medico,
Aye.
Pearson. Oh, excuse me, Pearson's a non-voting member. Atkins.
Aye.
Reef. Larson.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye. And is my sound better?
Sort of. Haney.
Aye.
Mayal.
Aye.
Brewer.
Aye.
Ayo. Roggenbuck. Dermody.
Aye.
Dill. Terry Dill. Grace Almeida. Elaine Katsukos.
Aye.
Sarah Allen.
Aye.
Ross Beckwith. Madam Chair, there were 14 ayes, no nos, and no abstentions.
Thanks, Jed. And then on to the, so that was the amendment. Now we're on to the adoption of the minutes as amended. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Please take the roll then, Jed.
Forsland.
Aye.
Ruiz.
Aye.
Johansson.
Aye.
Howley.
Aye.
Medico.
Aye.
Atkins.
Aye.
Reef. Larson.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Mayal.
Aye.
Brewer. Brewer.
Aye.
Ayo. Roggenbuck. Dermody.
Aye.
Dill. Almeida. Katsukos.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Beckwith. Madam Chair, there were 14 ayes, no nos, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Jed. The next item on the agenda, I believe, is Jed's gonna help me out. I only have one screen today. Do we do the public comment or call for public comment?
Yes, correct.
Yes, so if there is any public comment on committee business, please raise your hand or unmute.
Madam Chair, there were no members of the public signed up for comment.
Okay, thank you. So then I think we can move on then to our business item, which Jed will present, and it is on the proposed safety performance management targets. So Jed, I will turn it over to you then. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for bearing with my error there. I am here to present our annual adoption of the safety performance targets. So today I will be going through the requirements, our methodology, the proposed targets for adoption today, as well as an assessment of recent year performance. So these safety performance targets are required by the Federal Highway Administration's Safety Performance Management Final Rule, and it serves a dual purpose to inform planning and programming, to reduce fatal and serious injuries, as well as to track the performance of the Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program. State Departments of Transportation and Metropolitan Planning Organizations must establish targets for five measures, the number of all fatalities and their rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, the number of all serious injuries and their rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and a combined measure of non-motorized fatal and serious injuries. So this is anyone outside of a vehicle like a pedestrian or a cyclist. There are a set of specific requirements for a metropolitan planning organization. They must set a target for each of the 5 measures annually, and they can use one of 2 options. They can either establish a target that's specific to their planning area based off of a quantifiable method, or they can agree to support their state DOT targets. Metropolitan planning organizations are not assessed or penalized by the Federal Highway Administration for failing to meet those targets. However, state DOTs do have some implications for their HSIP allocation if they do not meet their targets. Here at the Metropolitan Council, we must have our targets adopted by February 27th annually. The method for setting our targets involves reducing them on a straight line towards the regional share of the Minnesota Strategic Highway Safety Plan goals using the targets that we had adopted in 2020 and held over in 2021 as a baseline. The Strategic Highway Safety Plan goals are no more than 225 traffic deaths and no more than 980 serious injuries by 2025. And that translates to a regional share of goals of no more than 74 traffic deaths, 464 serious injuries, and 115 pedestrian and bicyclist deaths and serious injuries combined in 2025. Staff are proposing to continue the method that was adopted in 2021. At that point in time, we were prompted by our policymakers to form an ad hoc safety targets working group to develop a methodology. Previously, we had been using the state's methodology and applying it at the regional level. However, there was a risk if there was a sustained period of increased fatal and serious injuries that targets could increase under that methodology, and policymakers gave direction to have declining targets. So this group met 3 times, first in 2020 to recommend a methodology, and then in the following 2 years to reevaluate it. And in its most recent meeting in 2022, confirmed that it did not need to reconvene until after the Strategic Highway Safety Plan was updated. They reached a methodology that includes matching the regional share of the 2025 state goals and setting it on that downward decline, which translates to about 8 fatalities, 96 serious injuries, and 17 non-motorized fatal and serious injuries removed from that target each year. The proposed targets in the action item 2024-02 are highlighted in the gray line here, and we've provided the previous year's targets for context and then that 2025 goal below it as well. So the proposed targets for adoption are 82 fatalities, which is 0.29 per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, 532 serious injuries, or 1.89 per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and 131 non-motorized fatal and serious injuries. To provide some context with the state targets, MnDOT has diverged from their target setting methodology that they had previously used as well by holding over the targets in the previous 3 years, and for the fatality targets, holding it over by 4. I'm not as knowledgeable in MnDOT's target setting methodology, but if you have any questions about the state targets, I'm happy to connect you or get answers from the performance staff at MnDOT. These targets are ultimately a tool for assessing our region's performance at reducing fatal and serious injuries through our transportation investments. And in the early years of this rule, we were meeting this target in some years on the serious injuries and non-motorized measures. However, with the COVID-19 pandemic, this reversed amid rising fatal and serious injuries. As you can see in the previous 2 years, we did not meet our targets, and currently with data available to us as of late October, we have already missed our adopted targets for 2023. The following few slides present the same information graphically. The orange line presents actual safety performance on fatalities, and the blue line represents the adopted target at that point in time. There are also two lighter lines on there. The light orange line shows the performance year to date in just the 7-county metro. I'll note that these targets do apply to our whole planning area, so it does include the urban portions of Wright and Sherburne counties. And the dashed line represents a trend based off of a 3-year rolling average of seasonally adjusted crash performance that based off of the crash data we have so far this year, where we would expect performance to be at year end. On the serious injury measure, you can see on this chart that we were meeting this target for a few years, and then the trend of improvement reversed with the COVID-19 pandemic. It does appear that this increase may be plateauing, though it is still at significantly elevated from its pre-COVID-19 levels. This is essentially the same pattern with the non-motorized fatal and serious injuries, though with a slightly sharper increase. Again, this figure also appears to have somewhat leveled off from the 2020 level this year. We also have provided in your materials a disaggregation of pedestrian and bicycle fatal and serious injuries. I won't detail each of these today for the sake of time, but essentially the message here is that while on most of these measures we appear to be on track to improve over the previous year, most of these measures do remain elevated over their pre-COVID-19 average. This is ultimately just a reporting of statistics around safety. It does not describe the work that we are doing to advance better outcomes on safety in our region. And so I'll just briefly summarize 2 areas that we're working to reduce crashes and to reach that shared goal of 0 deaths and serious injuries. So the 2050 Transportation Policy Plan has a working objective of people do not die or face life-changing injuries when using any form of transportation. And we seek to implement that through draft safety policies and actions that we created through a special working group through our policy development process that many of the members here are familiar with, including 3 broad stakeholder workshops. We look forward to sharing more detail on final policies and actions later this winter. We also have an ongoing regional safety action plan that Heidi Schulberg here is leading along with a consultant team that will develop recommendations for the 2050 Transportation Policy Plan, programmatic recommendations for our funding, and the study teams are currently reviewing some preliminary findings and methods for identifying a regional high injury streets network, a summary of crash trends, and a systemic analysis of crash risks. And with that, I will pause for any questions.
Thanks, Jed. Any questions or discussion?
Hey, this is Jay. Just a really quick question, just for, it's not super important, and great job on this, by the way, Jed and crew. Were you using the updated urbanized area boundary this analysis, or was it the previous urbanized area boundary?
Not at this point in time. All of the data that we have presented for 2023 is just for the 7-county metro. The 2022 performance assessment is based off of the boundary that was in effect at that time.
Got it. All right, thanks.
Madam Chair, I had a question. Dan Reese, Brooklyn Park.
My
Yes,
question,
go ahead, Dan.
thank you. For the trends, whether it's your serious injury rate or whichever, with that decreasing target, how far out into the future does that target continue to decrease, or does it plateau at some point? Or does it align towards 0 deaths? I'm just curious, being, relatively new on the committee.
Yes. So the target setting methodology we developed is only intended to be carried through 2025, assuming that that state goal would be revised in the next strategic highway safety plan update, or the 2050 transportation policy plan could potentially prescribe a goal that we're seeking towards. That said, the current progression of it is a straight line. And for the fatal measures, I believe the 0 year in it is somewhere in the 2034 to 2035 range. I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but it's approximately there. And then the serious injury target, I believe, is around 2037. But again, it's based off of that 2025 goal year, and it was intended to be reevaluated once we reach that point.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Hi, I had a quick question. Thanks, Jed, for the presentation. It follows on what was just asked. So just to confirm, so the 0 trend line, or getting to 0, there is a date that this is extrapolated out toward, but it's kind of a not published date, and there will be there'll be a look again at that and a resetting of that through the TPP. Is that what you're saying, or when is that being reset?
I don't believe a formal decision was made on that. It was intended to be reevaluated in 2025. I might invite Heidi Schallberg to join me in that answer, as she might be remembering a bit more detail.
Yeah, I think just to support, this is Heidi, to support what Jed was saying, I think the initial intent was to align with the state strategic highway safety plan and use that as guidance and direction. I was just trying to pull that up to see if there was any additional information on that. I know that MnDOT is preparing to do its next update of that plan. So I think in looking at that on the page that has the goals, it looks like it's just setting the 5-year goal for the timeline of that plan to for both fatalities and serious injuries by 2025, and then the long-term 0-1 I think is not specified. I'll verify that with MnDOT.
I guess I'm wondering, like, to the extent it would make sense to put something in here, like maybe there's not an opportunity to do this with the long-term goal of getting to 0, right? And then what the safety performance targets are, or if that could be articulated within this.
Within the target setting process.
Yeah, just to acknowledge that the goal is 0,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it seems that that's an important piece of information when I was just looking up at the motion.
That makes sense. I think Jed is highlighting the part in the.
Yes, so I just wanted to highlight in the discussion of the method that we do describe that the 2040 transportation policy plan does support a long-term goal of 0 deaths and serious injuries, and that objective language that I stated for the 2050 TPP does address that. The action hasn't stated that historically because it's essentially adoption of a federal performance measure. However, I do not see an issue with whoever states the motion adding that language to the motion, since it would not impact the targets in any way.
And if I recall, I feel like this maybe gets discussed almost annually when we do adopt these targets, because it does feel, I think, uncomfortable for a lot of us who know that the ultimate goal is 0, and recognizing that, obviously we're not going to get there tomorrow, especially with the trends as they are, unfortunately, currently today and going the opposite direction. But if that is allowed, Kathleen, are you proposing to make a motion with that added language?
I guess I'm wondering what others think, and I mean, you know, what, this is new to me too, like in terms of being on this committee and having this come before, so I'm just curious if there are thoughts from others for a second before I say I want to make that motion.
Dave?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I think I'm not sure it makes a ton of sense to include in the motion just because it's not really an action item to include that information, and the information is in the action transmittal. But that said, I mean, if we want to include it, that's a possibility. Grasping what exactly.
And Dave, I had a little hard time hearing you. I maybe will try to summarize. So it sounded like where you started out was that since it's in the material, you would not be in support of putting it into the motion. Did I hear that correctly?
I would support it if the committee wanted, of course, if the committee wanted to include that. I just thought that since it wasn't really part of the action, that maybe that fit better into this background and purpose of the action transmittal or the business item.
Thank you. Anyone else? Additional thoughts? Others?
Dan,
Is that Dan again?
yeah,
Sorry, I can't see.
I'm comfortable with the motion written as is, similarly, since that information is in the background, but that's just me. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. And maybe I have a question for staff. When this, you know, when the ultimate action is to adopt this, you know, what is the information that moves forward? I guess does, you know, my experiences with county board, and for us, it's really just the resolution that moves forward and lives on in perpetuity. So if that it is something the committee wanted to have as a clear statement for direction, would it have to be in the motion? Or does the background material suffice?
Historically, with this item, we have carried almost all of the background and analysis that you see here through to the final business item with the Metropolitan Council, as well as any committee comments or recommendations on it. For this item, we do not have a formal resolution other than the action item itself. So the final form of this adopted will be the business item that looks substantially similar to this.
Okay, thank you. And Dan, do you have your hand up again, or is it just from last time? Okay, thank you. I know those are hard to put down sometimes. Any other discussion? Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll just leave it as is. It's fine. It's in the background. That's carrying forward. And I think we're all acknowledging here the goal.
Okay, so we have a motion from Kathleen Mayo. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Let's see, I think Dan was first. But that may be just because I see him on my screen and I don't maybe see everybody. So if that's correct, we will go with Mayo as the motion and Ruiz as the second.
Wait, I didn't actually make the motion.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you did.
Yeah, no, I said I'm fine leaving it as is. It sounds like that's you know, whatever. People understand where this is going. It's in the background. The background moves forward. Like it's fine.
Okay, it's fine, but it's not your motion. So then do we have a motion, and did that come from Dan? Sorry,
I'll make that motion to.
Messing this up
that
already.
motion.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Do we have a second now?
Or will second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All right, hearing none. Jed, please take the roll.
Forsland.
Aye.
Ruiz.
Aye.
Johansson.
Aye.
Howley.
Aye.
Medico.
Aye.
Atkins.
Aye.
Casey Atkins.
Aye.
Reef. Larson.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Mayel.
Aye.
Brewer.
Aye.
Ao. Roggenbuck. Dermody.
Aye.
Terry Dill. Grace Almeida. Elaine Katsukos. Sarah Allen.
Aye.
Ross Beckwith.
Aye.
Madam Chair, there are 15 ayes, no noes, and no abstentions.
All right, thank you, everyone. Moving along to the next item, we do not have any information items. Any other business? All right. Maybe one thing I'll mention, Jed, I think there is maybe going to be, for the next meeting, it is going to be a Teams. We're going to try Teams instead of WebEx.
Yes, and I'm going to send calendar holds to the committee next week, and we will update those with the Teams invite in the new year.
Okay, thank you. So I think we are the first of the committees to be moving toward Teams. So we will see how it goes. So check your calendars for that. And with that, do we need a motion to adjourn?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for your patience today. The meeting is adjourned, and for many of you, we will join back for the TPP work group meeting starting in a minute here. Thank you.
You.